This is Richard Law with the Society of Field Inspectors. I get a lot of telephone calls from notary agents who ask how difficult is it to get started as an inspector. And the answer is it's quite easy. I got started as an inspector in Virginia many years ago. I was working in Northern Virginia and living in Northern Virginia in Fairfax County and worked as a real estate broker. I was a principal broker. I owned my own real estate company. And I found that certain times of the year were a little bit slower than other times, usually around Thanksgiving and Christmas, and especially if the weather got colder and there was a little snow on the ground, things seemed to slow down with regard to real estate. So while I was out and about, I found some postings on houses and stuff talking about inspectors and property preservation work that was being performed. And I did a little bit more research into that and found out that it was a huge field, with all kinds of different types of inspections out there. And of course, the better ones are the commercial and some of the insurance inspections. And you want to stay away from anything that's mortgage related because the fees are low and the work can be risky. So anyways, I got started with that. And for notaries, my advice to a notary is get started. The requirements are not difficult to get to. You don't need a commission. You don't need a license. You don't need any E&O insurance. You don't need business cards. You don't need any real special equipment for most inspections. You can use your smartphone for photos. And when you start out, you're going to start out with some of the easier to do type inspections where the company is going to provide you with the inspection form. There's no forms that you have to create on your own. They provide the form. And they provide some instructions on what they need with regard to the form and with regard to any required photos. And the companies want you to do a great job, because you're doing it for them. So they're going to give you a lot of help and a lot of support, and that's very important. As you advance to other, larger facilities and maybe more technical inspections, they may require some additional equipment, like maybe a walking wheel, a measuring wheel. And you can pick one of those up in a day at Amazon or go to Lowe's or Home Depot and pick up a measuring wheel. But I went through many, many, many years without ever having to go out and measure a property. Let me give you an idea of a kind of a simple to do inspection and tell you what it's all about and how much it pays. Okay, let's take something like a business verification, where really you're just going out and you're checking information about a company. Okay, I did one in Culpeper, Virginia, and it was for a cardiovascular clinic. And the clinic, they were hiring some nurses, and as part of that hiring process, they were wanting to get some background check information on applicants, and the company that was going to provide that background check information wanted to make sure they were really a cardiovascular clinic and they looked like they were a pretty solid company. So I called them up and told them who I was and why I was calling and said I needed to come by and do the inspection. It wouldn't take more than 15 minutes, and I could do it tomorrow afternoon between 1 and 4 o'clock if that was convenient for you. And they said, fine, come on by. And I did. I was going out to Lowe's on that day to pick up some stuff, and it was right on the way. So I left and I went there, went to the address provided, And sure enough, it was a cardiovascular clinic because it said Blue Ridge Cardiovascular Clinic on a big sign. The hospital was right behind it. The clinic was in a separate building. I went over to the building and I noticed the address and took a picture of that. I took a picture of the sign also. I went inside and I could see patients sitting there. I could see a lot of literature in there that kind of talked about the heart and how to take care of the heart and, the type stuff you would expect in a medical office. I met with the administrator. I asked to see the container in which they were going to lock up this background check information. And I asked them to put a key in the container so I could see that it would lock, and he did that. I asked to see his business license, and he showed that to me. And then I asked if we could walk down to an empty examining room, and I could take a picture of that. And we did, and there was a EKG machine in there, and I make sure that that little machine also got into the photo. And that was it. I was there for maybe 10 minutes, took a few photos. It was friendly. They needed me to come so they could get what they wanted. And I was out of there and on my way to Home Depot. And those are the type of inspections you want to do. If you're, and also paid $50. And if I'm getting paid, $50 to do an inspection requiring a 10-minute on-site visit, and I was doing that in conjunction with other things like going to Lowe's, then I was very efficient, and I was making pretty good money. And when you get set up in your inspection business, like you would a notary business, is you want to cover a small area. You're not going to cover the whole state. You're going to stay pretty close to where you live. You're going to work for multiple companies so that you could bring in multiple streams of income. And you become more efficient the more things you can do in an afternoon. If you're going to go out on Monday afternoon and do 2 notary signings and maybe 2 or 3 close by inspections, that works out better because you're more efficient, and efficiency leads to higher profits. So I think that's very important. And you're going to kind of pick and choose. You're going to, learn, what you like, and you're going to learn what you don't like. And you're going to get more of what you like and stay away from things you don't like. And you do the same thing with different notary tasks. So that's the way it works, okay? And I think the key things are that you're going to keep a small area, perform in a small area, and work for multiple companies in that small area. Now you're going to find that companies have different pay schedules. Some pay in the medium, some pay higher. And what I did in Fairfax when I lived there is I worked for about a dozen companies, and they paid about a dozen different fees. And the time for doing the inspection varied also, okay? Some was, a very short time, someone was a little bit longer, some inspections. So what I did is I had 12 companies with 12 fees, and what I did is I created 12 different service areas. So if the company was paying a really good fee, a high fee, I would cover a bigger area than I would for a company that was paying a smaller fee. In other words, I made my service area fit the fee. And again, over a period of time, I learned the type of inspections I like more than others. I always liked the more interesting inspections, the fun inspections that paid more. And I always avoided the low fee inspections. And by low fee, I'm talking about, some of these inspections were paying $5 or $6, and they wanted you to knock on the doors of delinquent borrowers. and they wanted you to go uninvited into backyards and peep in windows to see if a house was occupied or vacant. And you never want to do that type of inspection, okay? For a number of reasons. First, they don't pay a lot, and for second, they're riskier. So you want to stay away from anything mortgage related. And there's still a lot of inspections you can do that are both commercial and insurance. I can remember when I was up in Northern Virginia, they had a boat dealership down in Alexandria, and I would go down there to do what they called floor plan inspections, or another name for them was collateral inspections. And there you just go in there and you're looking at boats and you see what's there, what's been sold, what's in the dealership. And you're really trying to figure out whether they're reporting their sales properly. In other words, did they sell a boat, did they report that sale, or did they wait a couple weeks and hold on to the cash? So if the boat's not there, it's probably been sold, or maybe it's out on demo. But in any event, you're doing kind of a local accounting of the dealership to kind of see what's there and what's not there, and what's been paid for and what's not been paid for. And those are pretty interesting, because I always like to go and look at new boats. I've always owned a boat, and it's always nice to kind of go into a dealership and see what they're selling and what the prices are, and maybe get in the boat, maybe. But so there's a lot of different types of inspections out there. There's freight inspections where you're maybe examining some damaged freight. Maybe just mostly taking some photos of that. So there's a lot of stuff that's kind of in the commercial and insurance side of the industry, and that's the best side. That's where you absolutely want to be. And we have a national field service directory up at the Sophie store, and that lists the higher quality companies that pay the higher fees, that have the better work, certainly the more interesting work, and certainly the safer work. And for most states, it probably lists about 65 companies, and those are the ones you want to contact and introduce yourself to and see if they have work. And the other part of that is you also want to watch the video up at the YouTube channel on Never Stop Asking, because you're going to find some companies don't have work for you right now, but you want to wait a week or 2 weeks and get in contact with them again and ask again, because things do change. They may not need you now, but that could change in a week or two or a month. So you want to always keep asking for work. So that's basically a little bit on the transition from notary to inspector. And you're probably going to be doing both. And you may be doing some notary signings in the same areas you're doing inspections. And the whole idea is to give you more stability, more security, and give you multiple streams of income. And it just makes your life so much easier, and your job so much easier to perform when you got 2, maybe even 3 or 4 different streams of income coming in. So give me a call if you have any questions on anything I've said. You can reach me in Florida. I'm at 352-324-6042, and I'd be happy to answer your questions and kind of help you feel more comfortable in picking up some inspection work. The other thing too with inspection work is some of the companies will they'll all require you to have a background check, but some of the companies will ask you to pay for a background check, and I suggest that any company that wants you to pay for a background check, that you just kind of stay away from them, just kind of not get involved with them at all. And as far as pay goes, you should be paid, I would say most companies, probably 98% of the companies that we recommend, pay either weekly or every 2 weeks. And with inspection companies, I would not work for a company that couldn't pay you at least every 2 weeks. Companies paying monthly, I would stay away from them. So that's basically it. And like I say, give me a call if you have any questions, and I'd be happy to help you get started and also grow your inspection business. So take care and have a great day.